Oops.
Nicolas Roeg. Nicolas Roeg was one of the finest British filmmakers in the 70s and early 80s. He was a provocative sort. His films were very experimental, very weird. He pushed the threshold of what was acceptable to see in films. The first film he directed was this trippy work of brilliance, which is essentially all about the importance of the female nipple in British society. He directed Don't Look Now, which is one of the most bewildering horror films ever made. He was famous for his unconventional methods of editing. Cuts would always happen when you'd least expect it. All of the dialogue was intentionally overdubbed in post-production. It gave this eerie surrealism to his work, this weird sense of underlying phoniness to his characters and the worlds they inhabited. Very similar to the films of David Lynch, but at the same time they had this muddy surrealism to them, almost like documentaries. Nicolas Roeg's films have that rock and roll flair to them that completely embodies that era. Like so much sex, so much drugs, you know, just all the good shit. I love it, honestly. I think it's fucking awesome. He's worked with Mick Jagger, David Bowie, and Art Garfunkel. I'd only heard about the guy when he died a couple of years ago, but he's one of the most renowned England-based directors of all time. By all accounts, he was kind of a badass. There isn't a single film I've seen of his that I wouldn't recommend. They've all been really interesting in one way or another. If you're moving to some more weird, experimental, obscure films, he's definitely a director to check out. There was so much creative shit being made in the 70s, and his films are just more examples of that awesome movement. But then a couple of years later, in the year 1990, he decided he wanted to make a movie for kids. The Witches, bitches. The Witches is some weird-ass movie based on a novel by Roald Dahl. I think it's a pretty famous novel. A short story, a kid's novel. I don't really remember much about Roald Dahl. It's been years since I initially learnt about him, but all I do remember was he's a bit of a weird fuck, so it kind of makes sense that they'd get Nicolas Roeg to direct this film. Nicolas Roeg's fucking great, so I kind of really wanted to check this out. I watched it a couple of months ago, and then I decided I wanted to do a video on it, so I watched it again. Here's me watching The Witches. So yeah, time for The Witches, bitches. 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1. Film's got a pretty cool opening sequence, you know, just whizzing by a bunch of random mountains. Jim Henson was also involved, by the way. All I really know from him is he did The Dark Crystal. Puppeteer, man. Very talented. Reminds me of fucking, like, Hoth. The film opens in a village. I don't know where though, because there's no titles to show where it is. I need this, you know. You've got to make it clear for people like me. We get some narration from the grandma character. The grandma character plays a key role in the whole film, so just like remember her. We're introduced to our main characters, the lead child star, his grandmother, who I've just mentioned literally a second ago.
The most important thing you should know about real witches is this.
Film doesn't waste any time. Already we're being educated about these witches, what they're doing, what their role is in the film, how to avoid them, how to not get seduced by them.
They live in ordinary houses and they work in ordinary jobs.
This woman is the fucking witch connoisseur. She knows fucking everything about them. How they eat, how they sleep, how they shit, who they're gonna vote for, what their least favourite episode of Breaking Bad is.
Come on, Skyler. 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 Skyler.
I like to think that this film's kind of channeling Don't Look Now, trying to be the kid film equivalent. Let's scare the shit out of these kids. It is a good opening, to be fair. The grandma tells us a creepy story about this girl who got trapped in a painting. It's a story that is actually quite creepy. You know, this is enough to scare kids. Not some tame shit. This is scarier than the fucking Conjuring. We see the first witch of the film. Practical effects of the hands are amazing. Just cool ass fucking horrible hands. I hope I don't think of those hands the next time I have a pizza, because I'll fucking gag.
Real witches are quite bold.
We're introduced to the kids' parents as well. When I was first watching this film, I thought that the parents would be the typical, oh, it's all just silly stories, don't listen to grandma, she's fucking crazy, she's senile. At the end of the day, witches aren't real, and then at the end of the film, they'd see a witch and be like, oh, you were right all the time, both of you. Oh, believing is the key. That's how you survive in this world, believing that witches are real. I thought they'd be their own source of conflict throughout the film when the kid's trying to get things done and they stop him, like they lock him in his room when the fucking witches are out killing babies or something, because they're like, this is mad, this has gone too far. And it's the grandma versus the mum and dad. It's like, oh, well, the grandma was right all along. We should have listened.
Hey, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Grandma's been telling me about witches, Mom.
Instead, they just fucking die straight away, and the kid's left with the crazy fucking grandma. They move to England, which is a place I know. I mean, thank you. Fuck's sake, just set everything in England or America. The kid has his first interaction with a witch who comes along and tries to offer him a snake for some reason. Isn't it usually candy? I mean, why would it be a snake? Aren't they... A kid's gonna know immediately this is a fucking crazy bitch. I mean, candy maybe, but a snake. Every kid knows how dangerous snakes are. Why would you fucking... A fucking terrible witch. She should be fucking ashamed of herself. Anyway, after that tense close shave...
Grandma, did you see her?
Yes.
She hypnotized the snake she wanted to give me.
A real one?
A real snake, yes.
Here's the overdubbing again that Nicolas Roeg does. Makes it a lot more creepier. There is like a really pedophilic vibe to these witches as well throughout the whole film.
Hello, young man. What a magnificent treehouse. Did you build it yourself?
It's playing off that fear, the fear of strangers, and it's really creepy even now to watch. That's what these sort of witches are all based off, really, aren't they? Just fucking nonsense. Already you can notice some distinct cinematography here, because they actually got a real director to do this film. So then the grandma gives the kid some mice as a present for successfully evading a witch's temptations. That's what at least I'm guessing that it's for. And then she just faints. Fucking knackered. Turns out she's got diabetes. Oh man, diabetes, really? The doctor says she can't have any sugar-based food, and that cigars are probably a no-go as well. But then the grandmother's like, no, I'm afraid that's impossible, doctor. You see, this is exactly what the witches want. If there's one thing that absolutely repels witches, it's sugar and cigars. It's also smoking a few fat doobies, but I couldn't get them through airport security. So I thought I'd have to just settle with the cigars and sugar, but now you tell me to bin that shit too? Sorry, but it's the witches you've got to worry about. I'll take my chances with the fucking diabetes. Then the doctor leaves and we get this awesome social commentary.
How come doctors speak to everybody like they're babies?
Such a short boy but with a sharp mind. Dr. Peterson would be proud. Look at this weird ass edit.
You've never been to the ocean. Well, I'll tell you, it's big.
So then the grandma gets better and they go on holiday to this hotel by the sea. And then we get introduced to the lead villain. It's that woman that all those edgy girls post about on Instagram. So turns out this kid and his grandma stumbled into the beehive of the witches. There are like 100 witches at this hotel. This grandma's going to be fucking thrilled. It's like if Alex Jones was staying at a hotel and all the fucking lizard people were there.
Are you for Hitler or against Hitler? Whatever they say, it's the opposite.
Then we're introduced to Mr. Robot, Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson. He's good in this movie, as he is always. No surprise there. Let's move on. Now this little bit's shot handheld. Look how it adds to the creepiness. It's just going to be me wanking off Nicolas Roeg, but he really is an awesome director. Just little changes like this make such a difference. It's all janky and weird. All of the performances of the witches are really good as well. It's very over the top, it's pretty funny, but it is kind of sinister as well, for kids at least. It just works, doesn't it? I love this. I know it's supposed to be a cartoonish film, but just the idea of an organisation having a name like this. I know it's a front, but the Royal Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. It's like if Childline was called the prevention of a child getting battered by his alcoholic father. So the kid explores the hotel and he runs into this fat kid.
My name's Luke.
Bruno Jenkins.
For some reason I just know this is the most Roald Dahl character ever.
The cucumber sandwiches are alright too, except when they use margarine instead of butter.
Yeah, the Nicolas Roeg overdubbing absolutely crucifies this kid's performance.
I hope they're there's butter in the sandwiches today. I really do hate margarine.
I don't blame the child actor at all for that. There's this pretty funny subplot where Rowan Atkinson has an affair with one of the cleaning ladies.
Is she sober?
Yes, of course she's sober. I've been with her all afternoon. I saw her. Yes, she's sober. Don't be stupid.
Just something for the adults, you know. Something to get the juices flowing.
I know that woman from somewhere.
Ah yes, the Hitler of witches.
Which one?
My memory's going. But it's if I met her before. She's probably on TV or something.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. She's probably just one of the Love Island contestants. I love this line delivery.
Oh no. Sugar.
Grandma, sugar can kill you.
Oh, what did I tell you about those government lies? Sugar doesn't cause diabetes, it cures it. Nice little zoom right here.
We didn't come here for you to sit eating and watching telly all day.
Immersive, subjective, we're in the eyes of the witch. So the kid stumbles onto Bohemian Grove. This is an awesome set. Just look at those red chairs. They're so red and evil. So atmospheric. It reminds me of Eyes Wide Shut. The kid hides behind a thing and starts teaching his mice some epic parkour. Then the witches arrive. Oh shit! The contact lenses in this film are awesome as well.
I'll look up.
Oh, right, okay.
Can't have Mr. Bean ruining our child sacrifice. So then the witches unveil themselves. The practical effects here are fucking disgusting, which is awesome. We've got Nicolas Roeg coming in with the fisheye lenses, making it look even more unsettling. The fucking hands again. Obviously the makeup works flawless. Oh, look at that nose. It's timeless because it still looks believable. I've only just watched this film. I haven't seen it before. This isn't nostalgia. I'm liking it for what it is now. It still just looks visually striking. It's just pleasing to look at. It's so authentic.
Everywhere I look, I see the repulsive sight of hundreds, thousands of revolting little children.
So the head witch is like, there's too many fucking children left in this world. They need to all be dead. She slates all the witches for not killing enough children. Then she says that she's come up with the ultimate plan to get rid of all children in Britain. The final solution. They're going to use this potion that turns kids into mice. She's going to give them all this money and they're all going to go quit their jobs, buy out all of the respected sweet shops in the country and all announce a big grand opening with free sweets and chocolates, and they'll serve up this mouse poison to all of the kids in Britain.
Very best and most respectable sweet shops in England.
Now I, with my vast intellect, picked up on a key flaw in this plan. So earlier in the film, the disorder known as diabetes was established to be canonical with this film's universe.
Your granny has a very mild case of diabetes.
That being said, there'll be a lot of children in this world's version of England that have diabetes and won't be able to eat sweets or anything sugary. So all these diabetic kids will be completely fine. I just don't know why, of all the disorders this film could establish to exist in this universe, it was this one specific disorder that completely fucks this plan. Diabetic lives matter. Anyway, that's just some errors I find in this otherwise flawless narrative. Maybe I shouldn't be so nitpicky. I'm a real nitpicker, aren't I? I shouldn't be like that, you know, that's just small dick energy.
Quickly! Weeps, gloves! The appalling child will be here!
Hello, little boy.
And again we get this nice handheld shot that follows the kid in as he enters the witch's lair. I mean, this is just really creepy. Just look at them.
Lady promised me 6 whole bars of cream whipped hazelnut milk chocolate.
What's she doing? Why is she moving like that? The chubby kid's already been slipped a dose of the mouse poison.
What's going on?
This kid's like, can you just give me the fucking chocolate? So then he turns and... fucking hell. So he runs off, and then one of the witches smells dog shit.
Dog droppings.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. So to the witches, children smell like dog shit.
To me, you smell of raspberries and cream. But to a witch, you would smell absolutely disgusting.
What kind of disgusting?
Like Dog's droppings.
I don't believe it.
So they find him, he tries to run, but they catch him, they give him an almost lethal dose of this mouse potion, he turns into a mouse, they try and stamp him but he gets away, he meets up with the fat kid, and this is where the mouse segment of the film begins. So the way they film the mouse scenes in this film is also really good. Really clever, really efficient, really practical. We got Jim Henson coming up with these puppets for the close-up scenes where they have to talk. And then for the action scenes you have these real mice who are really well trained, and it's just really charming just to see. We got the fisheye lenses back, exaggerating the surroundings, making us feel like the mice. We feel tiny. Look how big those shoes are. This is someone's fetish. It makes for these cool sequences. It's actually enjoyable. I haven't been this excited since I watched Mad Max. They get to his grandma's room. She's more distraught at the fact that they're now mouses, much more than they are. They seem pretty cool with it.
Well, I'm not too keen on being a mouse,
Gotta
but the
find a way
grab's
out of
good.
here.
How long before we change back, do you think?
I don't think we will.
I just think of how much anxiety this would give me if this happened to me. I'd be pranging out. From this point forward, the grandma takes an active role in the story. I mean, the main protagonist has become a mouse, so she kind of has to. She's a much better protagonist than he was. I find her so much more interesting than him. The lead actor's alright.
You mean she died?
You know, he's fine. I wish he was a bit more frightened, because what's going on in front of him actually is horrifying, and I don't really feel those emotions through him.
Real witches are quite bold.
The grandma's the best character in the movie. The grandma's just fucking crazy. So usually in films like these, when the kid stumbles upon some supernatural or fantastical thing, he always runs to the adults of the film and says, "Oi, oi, oi, I've just seen these witches, we gotta get out of here." And the adults are like, "Whoa, what are you doing? Are you crazy? There's no such thing as witches." But in this, the grandma's just crazy, so as soon as she hears this, she's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be something like this. Oh, for goodness sake. Well, looks like I'll just have to deal with this." She pretty much becomes the main character in the second half of the film when the kid's a mouse. She plays an active role in the story. She's the hero. Kid's like, "Oh, it was witches, grandma," and she's like, "Well, I know a way out of this. I've dealt with this before. This isn't my first rodeo." She's pretty respectable in that way. She's kind of like a badass. She's not just the helpless grandma. She's so knowledgeable in her field. She fully just becomes the protagonist. I mean, in any other instance, she'd be this fucking crazy old woman, but in this world where witches actually do exist, she's a fucking genius. It's such a strange performance. I can't really decide whether it's good or not.
So the witches turn him into a mouse.
You crackers.
But she is just a very likeable character, so I guess it just works.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. It must be exterminated immediately!
We get a few more mouse shenanigans. It's all pretty exciting, but it all culminates at the end when all the witches are gathered to have a big meal, and the grandma and her mouse nephew find a way to poison their soup and turn them all into mice. This end sequence reminds me a lot of Inglourious Bastards. All the dirty eggs in one basket, wiping all the evil out in one glorious climax. The grandmother gets her final confrontation with the villain.
Most evil and appalling woman in the world. The loathsome, hideous disgrace.
Yeah, Grandma.
Very, very satisfying, but it is actually Rowan Atkinson who delivers the killing blow to our main villain. Such an epic finale. So much more satisfying than this. The Witches delivers on the witches. Obviously, that woman who always appears in those girls' Instagram posts, she does a good performance as the Hitler witch. I will say I wasn't really digging the voice when she was unmasked. I found it pretty annoying. I just thought they could have had a scarier voice for that character. Took the edge off a bit for me, because right before then I was really fucking petrified. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm just going to briefly talk about the philosophy of the witches. The witches are just fucking arseholes. They're good, but they just hate children for no reason. They just fucking hate kids. I was thinking, like, in this world, what's the point? Like, you're born a witch and like you're fucked. Like, you're supposed to be evil. You are evil. What the fuck are you supposed to do? Can you contribute to society in any... You're fucked from the beginning. It's not really their fault. They're literally rotting under there. They're not supposed to exist. I do like how they're presented, this fancy, pretty exterior, and then they're just fucking horrible underneath. All the witch laws interesting, like they don't have any feet and they have this horrible scalp. They gotta wear a wig. I mean, it's just horrible. I think it's cool when the lead witch pushes a baby down the hill. The main character gets his hero shot, his Marvel shot where he has to save the baby. That's pretty fucking cool. It's like, good job, kid. I like the over-the-top performances. I love the makeup. I love the practical effects.
Hello, little boy. Come on in then.
Again, there's that predatory vibe to them that just makes them so unsettling even now. There's something so inherently creepy about adults acting like this, and I think it's very clear why that is. It's playing off that fear of strangers. I saw bits of this when I was a kid, and I didn't know why, but I was just a bit weirded out by what I saw. I'm not really sure what the messaging is here. Like a stranger danger thing? Don't go with the woman that offers you candy. Fair enough. Don't explore a hotel on your own. A bit more specific. It doesn't really matter to me. I still enjoy this movie, just as a goofy horror film for kids. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a criticism of the fashion industry as well in the way they're presented, or just the higher class. They're definitely very Nazi-like. There's even the final solution that the main witch comes up with. But yeah, it's fairly subtle, all that. They're formidable villains. They're threatening. They're insidious. They're also just arseholes. They lean more towards like the Emperor Palpatine side of villains, where they're just evil and you just say, okay, they're evil, I get it now, I'm into it, it's fine. The goodies have won. So Luke, oh yeah, this kid's called Luke. I've just been calling him this kid for the whole review. Luke's still a mouse, unfortunately, but they get the big bag of money that the witch has left. And then the kid mouse says, we've got to go to America. And the grandmother's like, why? Why do we need to go to America? And then the kid mouse is like, there's this address book with the addresses of all the witches in America. So there's some potential for a sequel here. I mean, there was never a sequel, but whatever. The grandma seems to fully condone this plan of going on an American witch hunt with her nephew, despite the fact the last run-in with witches literally left him mutated into a mouse. But she's just so devoted to witch hunting that she just can't resist.
It doesn't matter who you are and what you are, as long as somebody loves you.
I thought she was going to say, as long as you have lots of money. So then they both go to bed, and he has a little mouse home. She's sad about him being a mouse. He's still pretty much fine with it. For all he cares, all his toys are much bigger now, so I guess he's fine. You think the film's going to end like that, but no. The last witch remaining followed them home. She was just this one witch that wasn't at the feast when all the other witches drank the soup. I think she's going to do something nasty, but it turns out she turns him back into a human. This is supposed to be a bait and switch. It's not a great one. It's just that she acts so ridiculously evil in whatever she's doing that you assume she's doing something fucked up. Anyway, the kid's human again, everything's dandy. The end. I feel like I haven't really given much criticism. For me, when it comes to criticism, it's more along the lines of what about this film didn't work? Which bits were boring or uninteresting? Was any of it bland? Were any characters understated? I didn't really have any of those problems with this film. I just kind of enjoyed it. It's not perfect, it's just a fun ride. I did watch it twice and the second time wasn't as good as the first, so maybe there's some rewatchability problems there. You can pick up on all of the film's merits the first time round, but it's definitely still worth a watch if you're into weird cult horror films, or if you're a Nicolas Roeg fan. Unlike most horror films made for kids, this film's actually scary. It's gonna leave a strong impression on kids in a good way. Leaves a strong impression on me. A grown adult tries to kill a baby. This puts this film in league with The House That Jack Built. The rat transformation, that speaks for itself. Once again, I bring him up, but Nicolas Roeg really did give this film its own identity. The way he uses his trademark styles to adapt this Roald Dahl novel, it's such a good pairing. A lot of Nicolas Roeg's films feel very amoral, which is what makes them so perplexing and disconcerting. Bringing that director, bringing that atmosphere to a kid's film, it's a risky move, a type of risky move that never occurs these days, but it paid off. Every good horror film has to take risks like that, has to risk being a bit too scary, a bit too controversial for its target audience. Risks that people like Nicolas Roeg are the ones to take, and the producers of The Witches obviously took a risk like that when they hired Nicolas Roeg. And it paid off so well. This is an awesome film. I mean, it's no masterpiece, but for what it's going for, it's such a special little movie. And I don't think we're ever really going to get anything like this again. You can't have anything challenging in kids' films anymore. Most kids' films are kind of just like baby films. Utterly safe, utterly clean, forgettable, worthless.
Grandma, did you see her?
Yes.
You know what? Looking at the way Nicolas Roeg directed The Witches, it kind of makes me wish he directed the Harry Potter films, like all of them, because they would have had this weird personality and they would have all been consistent. Imagine like 7, because he wouldn't have made like 2 at the end, he would have made it properly. I don't care. To be fair, I don't think he would have had any interest in that at all. Plus he would have been like 90 or something, I don't know. He would have been well old. I'm irritable as it is now. I mean, imagine being 90 and having all these weird wizards and goblins running around. Yeah, the Harry Potter films leave much to be desired. Let's just say that. But anyway, fucking I'm losing my voice here. There is actually some relevance to me reviewing this film in particular, besides it just being like a cool film. But they're making a new one. HBO Max, this new HBO streaming service, is releasing a remake of the film. I know who's directing it as well. It's a guy called Robert Zemeckis, who directed Back to the Future and Forrest Gump. Those 2 are his most notable films, I think. There was some other stuff, but one thing you might have noticed about those films I just mentioned is they came out over 20 years ago. I don't really know what he's been up to all this time. All that happens is I see a new film, like new film by Robert Zemeckis, and then I don't hear any bad reviews about it. I don't hear any good reviews about it. Almost like no one reviews it. They just exist and they get forgotten about in like a week, and it's just the least attractive thing a movie can be, is forgettable. But anyway, maybe this time he's done it. Maybe this time he's finally recaptured the magic of Back to the Future and Forrest Gump, and he's put that into The Witches. I'm sure the film will have some personality to it. Now, I'll give it a chance. You can be all negative if you want, but I'm going to go into this film with an open mind.
Ladies, I have a plan. Andro, the transform a child into a mouse.
Whoa! Why are we mouses?
Mice?
Whatever!
Fuck open-mindedness. You know, you give people these chances. What do they do with those chances? Well, they shove them up their arses, apparently. Please remember to like, and like. She's more distraught at the fact that they're now mouses.
Mice?
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?